Welcome into another episode of Betting the Pitch. I am your host, the real underscore G Warner, and I am playing hurt. I think I'm COVID positive, but you probably hear it in the voice. Might have heard it on the Sunday night podcast with AJ Hoffman that I do for pregame college basketball wise. It's been a fun couple days, especially because I have a wedding this weekend, which I'm probably not going to make. But anyway, here we are, feeling a little bit better. So we're going to go through this midweek, which is a lot of action going on. We have the Premier League playing some makeup games on Wednesday. We have the FA Cup going on, Copa del Rey, Coupe de France, also some Serie A stuff, but I already touched on that in the last podcast. I don't know if I'll get to that today. Per usual, going to go through and put together a best bet from each of the leagues that we're covering, and then pick an ultimate best bet end of show. Thank you everyone for the support, whether on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. That'd be awesome. We'll read them on the podcast. If I get a good enough one to read, questions on there, of course. And if you're on Twitter, the real underscore G Warner, feel free to follow there, slide in the DMs, at me with your questions. Happy to answer whatever you got, whether it's about Newcastle and their leadership director, woman, lady kissing everyone on the cheek in front of all of Saudi Arabia eyes, or whatever may come up. So all lines are on this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced use is offered in almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Please follow the link found in this podcast description to fund your account and use the promo code GW50 to receive 50% match bonus up to $1,000. So now that you have a ton of extra money in your pocket or in your account balance, might as well get right into it. And I'll start where the money is, and that is in the Premier League. So we have Wednesday matches this week, 2 makeup matches. Arsenal hosts Everton is the first one. Arsenal a 1.25 goal favorite with all the juice right now. Over unders 2.5, juice to the over. This is a rematch of the first match of Sean Dyche's managerial tenure at Everton, which Dyche, of course, took a 1-0 win. As always, all Everton and Sean Dyche goals specifically are not the prettiest, but they go in, and it was enough to hold up and win. It's going to be a little bit different of a scenario here, though, as going to the Emirates versus a home match with everyone behind you at Goodison Park. Arsenal with a good performance this weekend, I guess. Keeping a clean sheet was important for them, but I felt like Leicester were a pretty quality adversary for them. And I feel like Arsenal, while they're leading the English Premier League table right now, top of the table, I still have concerns about them and who they are and kind of the youth that they have. Plus, I haven't really been in this situation before. I feel like the pressure is getting to them. I took a push on a Leicester bet this weekend. I felt like it could have gone in a lot of different directions. I don't think that Arsenal were clearly better. And now here, Arsenal are at home, which is a nice step for them, and the crowd will be behind them. That'll be a huge boon for them. But they got to win by multiple goals here, and Everton are going to do everything they can to keep this as low scoring and as physical as possible. Arsenal has had really tough red card and disciplinary issues under Mikel Arteta. Maybe that's part of what the Arsenal transition was becoming, is getting those players out of the team, but they're still there. Gabriel, can't ever forget about Granit Xhaka as well. I feel like because it's above a goal and potentially climbing to 1.5, that makes me more and more interested in Everton. I think they're going to try to go in to Arsenal, frustrate everyone, try to play a low scoring match and try to get out there with a goalless draw, or if they could somehow get a set piece or a header and try to win 1-0, that would be Sean Dyche's like masterclass, his hope. I think under 2.5 is worth it. That also looks like that might be climbing to 2.75. Certainly love a 3 at some point to go under, but I doubt we'll see that before this kicks off on Wednesday. But lean to Everton and also to the under 2.5. Certainly want to wait to see if Everton climb to that 1.5 goal number that they're not there yet for, and also seeing that 2.75. The next EPL match on Wednesday is Liverpool hosting Wolves. These teams have played a lot lately. Wolves won 3-0, I want to say, in a home match, Premier League match maybe a couple weeks ago, and then maybe a month ago. It was a 1-0 final for Liverpool. I think it was also at Wolves in a FA Cup match, if I remember correctly. And it was also a replay of another match they played, which I think was a draw through 90 minutes. So So that's 3 times these teams have played. It's the 4th time since the World Cup break, which ended, I want to say, in mid-January. So these teams know each other very well. I think that's pretty clear. And seeing Liverpool a 1-goal favor right now, potentially with all the juice, potentially climbing to 1.25. Over-unders 2.75 in this one. And I don't really know what to say about the Liverpool defense. Obviously, the collapse at home against Real Madrid, taking a 2-0 lead and losing 5-2, shipping 5 goals was pretty embarrassing, but also speaks to, I think, the problems that Liverpool have, especially because Real Madrid have not looked like anything close to doing that in La Liga, which is unfortunately not nowhere near the financials of the Premier League. But yes, you could say that Real Madrid are great in Europe. They are, and they have been, but not really sure how to explain that one. But Liverpool, had a really good performance on the road at Newcastle, got 2 early goals and then held on to a 2-0 final after Nick Pope, the Newcastle goalkeeper, was sent off. But and I think a lot of people thought, okay, well, this is a Liverpool that we're going to get now. They've figured out how to get Cody Gakpo into this matchup, into this team. Also, Darwin Nunez is starting to do stuff. Mo Salah but unfortunately, this weekend he hit the bar. I think in the matchup, the last match they played, it was pretty disappointing overall. Jurgen Klopp still seems like he's not feeling great. I wonder about his future and if he stays with Liverpool. You have all the rumors swirling with the team trying to sell itself. Like, there's a lot of questions going on. Meanwhile, Wolves, I thought, played really well at Fulham. That was the early match on Friday of last weekend. So they have a little bit of a rest advantage. Yes, they have to go on the road to Liverpool and to Anfield, and that's asking a lot, saying something. But I don't think Liverpool have shown that they're like incapable of losing this match. And Wolves at +1 right now with that full goal of insurance looks really nice to me, especially as this might climb to 1.25. I want to say that I'm interested in the under 2.75 in this matchup as well, but it's really hard to trust the Liverpool defense right now, even with Virgil van Dijk back in the lineup. Wolves are going to be very aggressive and physical. I think that's kind of what Julian Lopetegui has brought in ever since he came over from Sevilla. I think Wolves are probably a good spot to look for this one. Both the dogs are pretty entertaining to me right now, or interesting to me. I think I lean more to the under in the Everton match than I do in the Liverpool Wolves match. But for my ultimate best bet for the English Premier League for this episode, I think betting the pitch number 172, I'm going to go with Wolves +1, though you might even see 1.25 by the time this kicks off on Wednesday. So from here, I'm going to transition to the FA Cup, which is going on. Currently, we have some Tuesday matches, so some coming up later today. So hopefully you got on this episode really quickly. Stoke hosts Brighton. Currently, Stoke a 1.25 goal underdog at home. Over under is 2.75. We got Stoke pretty juiced right now, so might be falling down to +1. A little more juice on the over. Not really sure you're going to see too much movement before this kicks off. Big question here, I think, in the FA Cup is who's really interested. And I think Brighton have shown that they're in really good position in the FA Cup. Of course, it's really hard to kind of speculate on what's going to happen in these matches and CC lineups, but clearly Brighton are a lot better than Stoke playing the Premier League. Stoke have been a long time away from there. I think my strongest lean is probably to under 2.75 in this one, just because I don't think Brighton's offense is really that reliable. I think they're going to go on the road to Stoke, which should have a pretty big atmosphere and should also be playing for a goalless draw the whole time. Brighton will have a lot of possession. They still play the way Graham Potter had them, even though Roberto De Zerbi has taken over. Problem is, I just don't know the level of Stoke at this point. Leicester then hosts Blackburn Rovers. Leicester currently a 1.25 goal favorite with all the juice right now, likely climbing to 1.5 before this kicks off. Like I said, there might be a lot of movement depending on lineups in these matches, but we'll see what happens there. Over under is 2.75 in this one, and Leicester an over team for me right now. So it's really hard for me to want to think that Blackburn Rovers, who probably want to go in and keep this as low scoring as possible. It's hard for me to kind of come up with a guess on what will happen. Fulham then hosts Leeds, a good English Premier League versus English Premier League battle. Fulham currently a quarter goal favorite. All the juice on Leeds right now, actually, and over under is 2.5, heavily juiced to the under. This has had some movement. I'm not sure that I really like Leeds at this point whatsoever. I think there's still a lot to be figured out about what they're going to do as a new Premier League, as a Premier League side with a new manager. They got a good win this weekend against Southampton, but wasn't really that impressive. Goals were not really found too often. And I think Fulham on the other side have really missed Alexander Mitrovic. Without him up front, they don't really seem to have the same type of offense. They don't have the same type of threat. They don't have the same type of attack. They don't really know seemingly what they're doing without him there. And I think that's a big problem, especially as a home favorite. Seems like Leeds are getting a ton of respect, so I can't imagine that Mitrovic will be available for this one, as I think he's dealing with a hamstring issue. And it's possible that Friday came too quickly, but I imagine this line will change if Mitrovic is announced in the starting lineup, but probably not if he's on the bench, and definitely not if he's out. But I think under 2.5 is most interesting to me, because I don't think Leeds are playing the same murder ball style they were before. And I think that's great, because I think the marketplace still expects that. Fulham have been very open, but quietly have conceded very few goals, very few chances. So I think under in that one is probably most interesting to me. Bristol City then hosts Manchester City. Currently Bristol a 2-goal underdog at home, not a quarter. Wow. 2-goal underdog. Over under is 3.25, juice to the over. Man City were dominant this weekend at Bournemouth. A lot of big mistakes, big ones at that, were part of where Man City's goals came from. I'm still not a believer fully in Man City having turned the corner, but definitely once it gets some confidence going, that's important for any soccer or football team across the world. Any person, any player, anything, confidence is a huge step. I can't say I know too much about Bristol City at this point, but it's amazing that they're here and they're probably going to go out. Moving to Wednesday, FA Cup, we have Southampton hosting Grimsby. Currently Southampton a 1.5-goal favorite, with a little bit more of the juice. Over under is 3. This I think speaks to Grimsby's ability to keep Southampton quiet. One of the worst teams in the Premier League, young and a little bit more dynamic, and probably will try to show that against a lower tier team. But ultimately, how you can trust Southampton to find 3 goals offensively as a big favorite in a match seems really unlikely to me. So I lean under 3 in that one, if anything, though. If anybody's got any sort of Grimsby ideas, please share them with your boy. Burnley then hosts Fleetwood Town. Currently Burnley a 1.75 goal favorite. Over under is 3. Heavily juiced the under. Also a lot of juice on the Fleetwood Town side. Burnley under Vincent Kompany, surprisingly a defender, are playing really aggressive front foot football. Not anything like we saw with Sean Dyche, and certainly in their Premier League tenure. But it's probably a good thing for their club and trying to get back into the Premier League. I think they were doing pretty well in the championship last time I looked. I don't know a lot about Fleetwood Town, so I'll move on to the next. Manchester United hosting West Ham. Currently Manchester United a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice right now. Over under is 2.75, heavily juiced to the under. I think with West Ham, incredible performance this weekend, from 0-0 after 70 minutes to then winning 4-0. And I think scoring 3 goals in 7 minutes. That probably is the top for West Ham's offense this entire season in terms of production. Doubt we'll see that again. If we do, I will certainly lose a bet against it, because I did not believe in them going into that match. I thought ultimately Nottingham Forest were playing really well. And West Ham got kind of a fluke of a goal, got another fluke of a goal, then had a huge outside the box goal from Declan Rice, who does have that in his locker, but is not something that I think you would expect too often. Manchester United, on the other hand, played a big match, got through the Europa League as an underdog, which was nice to cash. Rarely am I backing Manchester United, but it was nice to do it against Barca. They got through, are now into the next round of the Europa League, but also have this Champions League stuff. Won the Carabao EFL Cup this weekend against a Newcastle side that had to play like a third string goalkeeper, and might have mattered, maybe not. But it was interesting to see Manchester United take a 2-0 lead and not add to it, but also kind of looked like they were happy to play a defensive brand once they had a big lead. And that does kind of play into this total here at 2.75, which I think is my strongest lean. I'm not really a believer in West Ham. I do believe in David Moyes and his brand of football, which is not good as a favorite, but as good as an underdog. I think at the very least, I'll need West Ham to hit +1 to be interested in fading Manchester United, but I'm not really that interested in doing it. Their counter press is really scary. Their counterattack is really scary. The nice part, though, I think for West Ham is they're going to sit back and play pretty deep and force Manchester United to create the goals themselves, rather than giving up mistakes that allow Manchester United a short field or an open field, or the ability to run as quickly as possible with few defenders and a 3-on-2 or something like that. West Ham will restrict that, and I really like that under 2 3/4. It's pretty juiced right now. I don't know that I feel too differently between 2.5 and 2 3/4. Certainly, it's nice to get a half push if it ended on 3, but still a loss. So I'm not in a rush to grab it as we speak. Last but not least, in the FA Cup, Sheffield United host Tottenham. Currently, Sheffield United, a 3/4 goal underdog. Over-under is 2 3/4. Pretty heavily juiced the under. I think it's a real big test for the Conte brand of football. I think it's going to be, if they do it against a lower tier competition in the Premier League, they're probably going to try to counterattack Sheffield United on the road in the FA Cup, which would be bizarre. But I don't know how you could expect something different. That certainly, if Sheffield United have more of the ball and are 3/4 goal underdog, that's very interesting at home. I think I'd want a +1 at minimum to get involved there, but it certainly points to under 2 3/4 that there's not going to be a lot of opportunities on the goal. Sheffield United are probably going to try to give the ball to Tottenham. Tottenham will try to give the ball to Sheffield United, and I think that's going to be a stalemate. So seeing 3 goals is going to be hard to really come up with. I do think that the FA Cup, sometimes you see some big numbers here in the total areas. So I think that's something we can exploit. So I do like that under 2 3/4. I think for my best bet for the FA Cup, I think I'm going to go with that Sheffield United under 2 3/4. Sheffield United have been playing pretty well in the championship, but I don't think they'll be naive. I think they know that Tottenham are coming to their home. They're going to have a huge crowd behind them. Blades have been in the Premier League fairly recently, have changed managers a bunch since then. But I don't see a lot of goals coming from this type of setup, and that'll be my lean for that one. Next, I'll move to Spain and the Copa del Rey, which is, delightful. We got 2 legs. This is Copa del Rey semifinals, so play one at one home, one at the next home. We have Wednesday match, Osasuna hosting Athletic Club Bilbao. Currently, Osasuna, a 1/4 goal underdog. Over-under is 2. Pretty low total. I lean to both Osasuna and the under 2. 2 is just such a hard number because with how many penalties are given, VAR and all that sort of stuff, handballs, mistakes, it's really hard to find 2 as a worthwhile play. I think I've been playing a lot of under 2 1/4 with mixed results lately, but I think 2 is generally a kind of a minimum for me. Certainly wouldn't go below it, but juice is -110 each way. So Athletic Club have been awesome in this competition. I think they're built for tournament play, cup play, because they like to counterattack. And I think that fits when you're trying to win a match or not lose it and then get through with your counterattack or on penalties or what have you. I do think this will be a very close to the vest match. Osasuna with a 5-goal thriller by their standards this weekend at Sevilla with a 3-2 win. Pretty crazy how it all went down. 1-1 looking like he wasn't going to see another goal. And then the Sevilla keeper punched the ball off his own defender and it trickled into his own net. Had to get a VAR review to say it would cross the line because they don't do goal line technology in Spain. Anyway, I think Athletic Club, on the other hand, have not played well. Had a loss to Girona this weekend with 2 own goals. They're going to want to make amends for that, certainly, after a bad performance at San Mamés. They go on the road where they really haven't been able to score goals. So seeing them as a road favorite doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's very juiced right now to back Osasuna getting that 1/4 of a goal at home, and we'll see what happens with that number. But I lean to Osasuna quite a bit, as I think that their offense has been bad themselves, but this looks like it could be a goalless first leg, which also, I guess, makes that under 2 look very interesting. Moving to Thursday, Real Madrid hosting Barcelona in an El Clasico, as we have, I think, 3 of these, including the 2 Copa del Rey matchups in the next month or so. Real Madrid currently a 1/2 goal favorite, over under 2.5, juice to the over. And I got to say, I don't know where this comes from. Real Madrid have, other than the Liverpool comeback, which, let's not forget, they were down 2-0. They've looked horrible. They have no real offense to speak of. Were arguably silenced by Atletico Madrid until a red card to Angel Correa changed things quite a bit and still went behind. Barca, certainly not a great result, losing the tie to Manchester United and really losing against the spread in both legs. So not great for them. But they're a 1/2 goal underdog in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Barcelona were a 1/4 goal favorite in the final of the Supercopa. So I got a lot of questions there. Real Madrid look pretty tired. Barcelona, this is the biggest competition they have left besides leading La Liga. Certainly Barca have been dealing with some injuries lately and might have some suspensions that I'm not aware of as I'm recording this, but I don't know. I mean, Pedri misses so much time for Barcelona that I'm not sure that's like something they're not used to. They're so deep. They have so much talent and ability. Pretty tough loss to Almeria on the road was very surprising. Something I thought was very unlikely to happen, but they're a pretty big underdog to Real Madrid right now, who are not really performing. And the Bernabeu is tough to play in, but I think Barcelona are used to it. This is a big deal for them, and a draw wins you a full bet. I mean, that's really hard for me to resist. Over under 2.5, juice to the over. Looks like that might even climb a little bit. I don't see a ton of goals in this matchup. I feel like Barcelona, while they're known as an offense-only team, really have really defended well, and that's why they're leading La Liga. So didn't expect this number to be this high. I'll make Barcelona getting a half of a goal as my best bet for the Copa del Rey portion of this podcast. Next, we'll move to the Coupe de France. And we have a couple good matchups here, some not so great ones. But this will be, I think, the last section of this podcast. And then I'll get off, make an ultimate best bet, and then let you all on your way. We'll start today with Lyon hosting Grenoble. Don't know how to pronounce that. Grenoble, I guess. Olympique Lyonnais currently a 1.5 goal favorite, a little bit more of the juice. Over unders 2.75, juice the over. Tough for Grenoble to have to go on the road to Les Colnes. Tough place to play, especially with Lyon and their offense likely performing a lot better at home than away. Currently to advance number, Lyon minus 750. So pretty expensive, but much better side for sure. Minus 333 to win in regulation. I can't imagine this one would go to extra time, but going to be one of those matchups where Lyon get a lot of chances on goal. I don't know that I want to get involved with that on the road, I'll say. Moving to Wednesday, we have Nantes hosting Lens. I think this was a quarterfinal matchup last season, I want to say, or maybe even the final, a rematch of the final in the Coupe de France. I think that was Nice, though. I'm not sure. Anyway, Nantes currently a half a goal underdog at home. Over unders 2.5, juice to the under very heavily, might fall to 2.25. Nantes, I mean, unfortunately, they're in trouble because they have had the balancing two competitions has been really tough for them. Winning the Coupe de France last season, the holders, nice to see them get this far in the competition, but they also had 2 legs with Juventus and lost a lot of players to injury, had a tough red card from Nico Palawa. And, just things didn't really work out for them. Now they face Lens, who are going to be aggressive on the front foot the whole time, attacking. I think that's going to push Nantes into a defensive position, which makes sense that Nantes are a half a goal underdog at home. Currently, I don't know that I believe in Lens. Their offense has been pretty quiet since the World Cup break. I probably makes sense that they're a favorite, though I got to say I do like Nantes getting a half of a goal at home. Their home crowd is going to be huge. Their performances have not been great really since the Europa League, but that was, I think, a lot due to injury. I'm curious to see what the lineups look like, because if they're healthy and they can start their best players like Castelletto, a Palawa, and others in that Chirivella in the spine, I think that's the most important thing, to know what Nantes will give defensively. And then once you know that Nantes are going to be defensively solid, they still have, I mean, the loss of Colomani was huge, but they, especially for free, but they still have Ludovic Blas, who's been great. Mohamed has done some Motasami has done a lot as well. So I don't think that Nantes are a dead team at home. I think under 2.5 is probably my stronger lean here than the half of a goal on Nantes. But I think this will be competitive and low scoring. So I lean to the home underdog and also the under. To advance, Lens 1-2 minus 200, Nantes plus 160. Again, very dependent on what that lineup looks like for Nantes. Toulouse then hosts Rodez. Currently, Toulouse a 1.5 goal favorite. Over unders 2.75, juice a little bit more to the over. Also a little more juice on Rodez on the road. Toulouse have not looked great as of late. Schedule's been tougher. They're still a front-footed side that won Ligue 2 last season. They're not going to give that up. I think that's going to suit them well, especially playing in a home match. Toulouse minus 600, 1-6 to advance. Rodez plus 400 or 4-1. I don't know enough about Rodez to really go further into that one, I'll admit. And last but not least, Marseille hosts Annecy. Currently Marseille a 2-goal favorite, with a little bit more juice. Over under 3.25, juice to the over slightly. Marseille with a pretty good performance, I thought, against PSG, and then they gave up the first goal and lost 3-0. Tough situation for them, especially considering how much success they had against PSG, and really hurts them for their league title hopes. I still think getting to Champions League is their biggest goal, not necessarily to win the league, but winning the Coupe de France is a big deal for Marseille, I'm sure. Pretty nice draw, the biggest favorite of all, and at home. Going to be tough for Annecy to go into the Stade Velodrome and do something, or the Orange Velodrome, the Stade, whatever. Currently, Annecy 7-1, Marseille minus 1250 to advance. So shouldn't be that competitive, I don't think, but I think it'll be fun to watch because any Marseille game, you never know what's going to happen at home. Hopefully, the crowd behavior will be a little bit better than it has been in the past, because we can't really afford to have matches postponed or anything like that moving forward. For my best bet for the Coupe de France, I'm going to go with Nantes under 2.5 goals. I just don't think Lens' offense has been good enough. It's a little bit of a risk right now without knowing the Nantes lineup, but even if this falls to 2.25 when they do put out their best, I think that's going to be important, because Nantes are likely looking just to survive in the Ligue 1 right now, and then if they can win the Coupe de France, it'll be huge for them as well. That's probably their biggest idea right now, is the Coupe de France, and I think they'll play as much as they can in that one. So this is Betting the Pitch number 172. I'm your host, the real underscore G Warner, on Twitter and on Instagram. Going to go through for my ultimate best bet portion of this show. From the English Premier League, I like Wolves getting 1 goal at Liverpool on Wednesday. Also on Wednesday in the FA Cup, Sheffield United under 2.75 goals against Tottenham Hotspur, at home against Tottenham Hotspur. In the Copa del Rey, I like Barcelona getting half of a goal on the road at Real Madrid. Not as much afraid of the Bernabeu. And from Coupe de France, I like Nantes under 2.5 goals hosting Lens. For my ultimate best bet, though, I'm going to pick Barcelona getting half of a goal. I think Real Madrid have struggled so much to score goals. They're really an offense that is based on Karim Benzema and nothing else. Vinny Jr. has been better lately, but I still think it's someone that's too hard to trust. And Barcelona shouldn't be getting a half of a goal in a cup match, especially after being a 1/4 goal favorite in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So I'll give you Barcelona plus 1/2 of a goal in the first leg of the Copa del Rey. And that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch. Thanks you all for tuning in, hanging through whatever you've been listening to. I'm sorry that I have not been in the best form of health. I hope that things can get better in the next couple of days. But thanks for sticking with me. Here's 27 minutes. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and let's make some money. Actually, and before I turn this off, sorry for that. Didn't mean for the pump fake. If you're on Twitter, please follow the real underscore G Warner. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. It'd be great. Get me higher up the list when people search for betting stuff, especially soccer related, on those platforms. So thanks for joining, and I'll end it for real this time. The real underscore G Warner is out.